CUPE is updating us. Let's listen in.
I'm going to start out by saying, if this government had spent as much time at the bargaining table and working as hard there as they have in crafting a bill that has clearly been in place since bargaining began, we wouldn't be in this situation. To hear today that the minister is concerned about people not being able to eat, children not being able to eat, is a smack in the face to the quarter of my members that are already at food banks because they cannot afford to live in this province and do the work that they love.
The minister has made it clear he's going to fine your members $4,000 a day. Are you going to pay for that as the union? How is that going to work?
The fines can come and we will look after it. But how ridiculous is it that this minister is so concerned about pulling more money out of people who are impoverished instead of just sitting down and listening to what they need?
This will be an illegal strike, though. This is an illegal strike.
That's the great part about being part of a union and being part of the labor movement.
That's $1 billion in a week.
We understand that. We understand that.
Where's the money coming from?
That will be determined as we move forward. I can tell you right now that there is money coming in from other sources, including parents who are donating the $200 that they got from this government into the strike fund.
But this isn't sustainable for long, Laura.
You know what? At this point, there's a bigger problem on the horizon, and that is the mass exodus of education workers who can no longer afford to do the work that they love. You cannot fill a gas tank with passion. You need money, and you also need services coming in. We don't have enough EAs. We don't have enough custodians. There are schools being cleaned every other day, and there's nothing in this legislation that is going to happen that's going to make that any better, and that's the unfortunate part.
Laura, you were looking to make a point. Is a one-day strike not a point enough? How much?
This was never about a point. This was about getting workers what they need in order to survive. Unfortunately, this government decided to use their sledgehammer to put in a pushpin. There is no need to use a notwithstanding clause. There is no need to rip away someone's charter rights or human rights. What they have done is awaken a labor giant.
So, what happened yesterday, though?
Government, how letters are being sent to the government for any kind of intervention. Do you feel like that's necessary because working on something like that yourself?
Well, the Prime Minister thinks it's necessary. He said very plainly that the use of the notwithstanding clause in this instance is wrong, unequivocally. And Jagmeet Singh put forward a motion to have a special debate here. Everyone across the country, we were just on a call with our National Executive Board. Folks are talking about this across the country from coast to coast to coast. Because beyond what is happening here in relation to the important work our members do in schools, the Ford Conservatives are doing something that is unprecedented in Canadian labour history. It is just not okay for them to think that they can take the nuclear approach to collective bargaining. That impacts, yes, our members in schools, but it impacts every public sector worker, every private sector worker. This is about trade union rights. This is about workers' rights, and that is why you are seeing growing support across the province. They don't know what they have started here.
Laura, what happened at the bargaining table? You had a proposal yesterday. It was rejected. Why did the mediator break off the talks?
Because there is very clear that this government doesn't want to move. This government was looking to find a bargain basement deal that didn't respect students, that didn't respect workers, that didn't respect families, and so they're going to legislate it. You can't talk to four walls. You need to have some give and take. And at a time when inflation is at 7%, to say, please, lowest paid in the province when it comes to education workers, please take pennies. If they think that that is going to be acceptable, it just won't. And you know what? I hope that people understand that there are clearly so many people behind us, and quite frankly, let's be clear, workers are parents. I'm a parent, and I am disgusted by the government that we have in Ontario now, trying to be divisive, hearing that they're worrying about working mums. I am a working mum. We need to put food on the table too. The only people that are fighting for kids in this province are the workers, not this government.
Did you guys calculate, though? Did you come in too high at 11%?
No, we did not.
You don't think that that was too tough a stance?
Can you talk about what you were asking for now that talks are not continuing?
Yes. We moved away from our 325. We moved a substantial amount, over half, to see if that would be, because we hear the minister talking all the time about his inflated percentages, we moved to see, hey, listen, if we drop it substantially, are you going to move? Not an inch. Not an inch. As a matter of fact, the minister told you today that our sick leave is secure. It is not. He said that he came to us with generous increases. No, he did not. As a matter of fact, if you read the legislation and compare it to the current collective agreement that is now gone, he has once again stripped away from the very workers that he told had to report to work during the pandemic. So no, We tried everything. We moved as much as our members could possibly move, and understanding that they have bills to pay, and this minister, through his mediaries, said, not enough. He has never wanted to negotiate. This government had this bill ready when we served notice 150 days ago. And so today, I will be in the House when this happens, because he can look me in the eye as he strips away the rights of workers, as he strips away the rights of women who are fighting and doing 2 and 3 jobs. We don't have the luxury to not fight, because we are so desperate already. He's backed us in a corner. We're coming out swinging, and we're bringing the labor movement with us.
So how long are you going to strike? Laura, how does all this end? You said yesterday it would continue until further notice, until a deal is reached. Once the legislation passes today, that's a deal. It's not a negotiated deal, but the contract will be in place. So how does this strike end?
What is going in place today is a piece of legislation. It is not a deal. A deal is something that 2 parties come to collectively and agree to. What this is a bullying tactic. What this is an imposition. But make no mistake, it is not a collective or an agreement.
So are you going to keep striking until they come back to a table that's no longer there?
We invite them to come back to the table at any time. As a matter of fact, how many times did the minister tell you bargaining was off and we were still there bargaining? There has been a clear problem with this minister, his negotiations tactics or lack thereof, and he is going to cause chaos in the province. He caused chaos in the province in the last 2 years by failing to put in place the funding that would have kept all of our children safe. We were there. We know. We saw it. We know that emergency rooms right now for children are at a peak. And this government is more worried about stripping away your rights, because let's be clear, this is not about just education workers. They will come after each and every single one of us to achieve what they want, which is the complete and utter privatization of this province. And I am so proud that I'm part of a union that is standing up and saying no.
Will you
But you're not
pay the
saying how it's
fines?
going to end, though, Laura. You're not telling us.
Because our members are going to decide how it's going to end. The people of the province are going to decide how it's going to end. The growing number of people who are joining us every day. Look, the OFL called a rally with 24 hours notice and 5,000 people showed up. We're getting all kinds of notices every day. Our office has been flooded with calls. You know what they are? They're parents and everyday community members saying, how can we help? How can we support you? We're on side with you. I did a media interview earlier today. The tech guy who was checking my sound said, I don't know if this is appropriate, but I should let you know that my whole family's been calling the minister and complaining. So they don't know what they have begun here. And if they think they can just continue to trample on workers' rights, these are workers who for the last 10 years have had their rights trampled on with Bill 115 and Bill 124. Working people have had enough. Enough is enough. And so,
are you on strike indefinitely? Please answer the question.
yes,
We are on strike.
until our members decide otherwise.
We are on strike until this government recognizes that you can put in all of the legislation in place, but you cannot control a worker movement that is so fed up with your overreach. I actually call on Doug Ford to come and talk to me. Stop talking to the media. Don't send Mr. Lecce. Come and speak to me. Let him hear from my members like Charity, who on a call today had to explain to us that she goes to the food bank every Friday to make sure her kids have food. This government's not looking after her. Do you know who's looking after her? The union.
Will you refuse to pay the fines?
We will take the fines and we will proceed.
Will
And
you
we will
pay
fight them
And we'll
every
fight
step.
them.
We
We'll
will fight them.
So you're not going to pay them initially?
Look, do you think it makes no sense at all for them to be targeting women
But
who are low paid in the province?
I
It makes no
understand,
sense to them
Fred,
at
but
all.
Will you refuse? Can you refuse to pay the fines, and what would the consequences
I don't know.
be?
People have been asking, can you go on strike when it's not illegal to strike? The right to strike was not given to workers. Workers decided it, and workers took it. That's what our members are doing on Friday. They are deciding to stand up for themselves, and we will fight then, and we will fight against fines, and we will continue to fight until we get what is needed in our province.
I'm going to have Candace actually come and speak about the fines.
I'm the National Secretary-Treasurer of CUPE, responsible for finance and operations at our national union, and I think our message is clear that we are not prepared to allow this government to use extraordinary bullying tactics and the threats of fining our members to prevent them from taking the job action that they want and for standing up for their rights. So we are giving our members clear instructions. If you are fined on the picket line, you report that fine to your president and you let the union know, and we will provide you with further instructions. We are in the process of seeking legal support on that. If the government of Ontario wants to clog up the justice system with $4,000 per member per day fines, then I say bring it on. We are ready for that fight, and we're going to decide what kind of a union we want to be. And I think you can see our members in the school board sector leading the way.
But the fine is against the union is
And we are-
$500,000 a day.
and
Will
we-
the union pay that fine?
We will fight that, and if we have to pay it, we are prepared to pay that. But we're going to fight it, and we're going to resist it, and we're going to stand up for our rights. And if at the end of the day our union has to pay it, we will find the money and pay it.
So your message to parents, if the strike continues the next week, that they're not listening to labor talks, all they care about is my kids aren't going to school. What are you going to say to the parents?
Same thing I say in the mirror because I am a parent. We are fighting for the services that your kid needs. Just because your children are housed in a school does not mean that those kids are getting those services. I can tell you that firsthand. They are not getting the services that they need. And we are going to continue to fight because it is not okay that there is a mom in Toronto that has to sit out in front of a school in Toronto Catholic District School Board because there's not an EA who can support the toileting and personal care of her daughter. That's not okay. And there's nothing in this legislation that is going to help that mom or that daughter seek her independence. And that's what parents need to be doing. They need to be looking and asking yourself, why is this government fighting so hard to prevent the services that kids need from coming in? Why is that? Why are they fighting so hard to keep the most impoverished further in poverty? And quite frankly, fining us $400, $4,000, $500,000, it's kind of like a bully asking for your school money, your lunch money every day. At one point, you're going to have to stand up to that bully and say enough is enough. And we have 55,000 people, along with so many of our friends across this country, who are saying no more. And quite frankly, that's what we teach kids in school, right? To stand up to the bullies, not be a bystander. And I'm now calling on everyone in the province, you don't need to be a bystander and watch this government bully. You can stand up and you can say no. Because quite frankly, what they do to me, they're going to do to you. And I will be there fighting for you every step of the way.
But
Thank you.
Parents need to know, right? They need to make plans. So they'll be making plans for next week for their kids?
I would make plans. Definitely I would make plans. As a matter of fact, when my kids were little, I had plans for a snow day. I had plans for, any sort of thing. Our schools are in disrepair. You should see how many times that, there's no hydro in our schools, and so they don't have a day that they can go to school that day either. Parents have contingency plans. Always have contingency plans. I understand as a mom this is hard. Trust me, my son is not happy either. He has a big football game tomorrow. It's not going to be happening. But you know what he said to me? Mom, if you don't fight now, how is anyone going to do your job later? I am fighting so that every single worker can do my job after me, and we're not going to stop just because of this minister. Thank you.
We should go up to the debate. Yeah. Thank you.
CUPE leaders are speaking after talks between the province and the union ended without compromise, and you heard it from them. The strike is going to go on indefinitely, and they asked parents to make plans for next week, which means that the strike could go beyond tomorrow.